4 weeks into the carnivore diet, and I've experienced some major changes, but is it all good? Well, let's cut through the hype and talk about the real science, the potential benefits, and the possible risks associated with going full carnivore. And today we're on episode 31. Today's episode is the carnivore diet. 4 weeks in, real benefits, real risks, backed by science. So 4 weeks into the carnivore diet, and I've experienced some major changes, but is it all good? Well, let's cut through the hype and talk about the real science, the potential benefits, and the possible risks associated with going full carnivore. And I want to tell you that this last week has actually been extremely challenging for me. My wife, you guys may have been following along. You may have seen my posts. My wife had brain surgery this last week, was in the hospital, had a tumor removed, luckily benign, but still scary and dangerous. And so I was in the hospital for the entire last week with her. And doing the carnivore diet is definitely a challenge when you're in a controlled environment where you don't have the control over the environment they do. And so while home, it's been pretty easy to make sure to eat a full carnivore diet, but definitely a challenge. I am going to pat myself on the back just a little bit because I wasn't sure how that was going to go. But I actually pulled it off. I made sure that I didn't eat anything that I wasn't supposed to eat on the carnivore diet, and still continued to eliminate the carbohydrate, which was great. So a little bit of a challenge, but mind over matter. You can do anything you put your mind to. So let's start with the very basics. What is a carnivore diet? A carnivore diet is simply a zero carb diet that focuses exclusively on animal products. So things like meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and sometimes dairy. Now, not everybody chooses to do dairy. It kind of depends on your GI status, whether you can process and handle that dairy. But it is approved, or it is okay on a carnivore diet. There are, as I mentioned in a previous video, there are varying permutations of the carnivore diet. So like if you're on a lion diet, then you're eating only ruminant meats, red meats, and then you're not eating the dairy. But on a true carnivore diet, dairy is certainly acceptable. Now, what you're not eating fruits, you're not eating vegetables, you're not eating grains or any plant oils. And as I've mentioned in a number of videos up to this point, it is an extreme version of a ketogenic diet with emphasis on fat and protein. And it really is what we consider a true elimination diet, where you're really eliminating everything outside of animal foods, animal products, animal byproducts, and getting rid of everything else. And then if you want to slowly reintroduce things, then you certainly have the capability of doing that. So let's talk about some potential benefits on the carnivore diet. So first is weight loss and improved body composition. So many people experience rapid fat loss due to near zero carbs and lowered insulin levels. And that's actually the main reason that I started doing it myself, was that I was insulin resistant and pre-diabetic, even though I'm not terribly overweight. It's not like I can't lose any weight, but I'm not in the obese range, and but still fighting pre-diabetes and insulin resistance. So that's the main reason I started it. There was a study by O'Hearn in 2021 in the current developments in nutrition. It was a survey of over 2,000 carnivore dieters. About 93% reported improved health. About 85% reported weight loss. And about 66% reported resolution of chronic conditions. So again, what kind of ketogenic or low carbohydrate diet you choose is based on your goals, as I mentioned in previous video. And so this one is really effective in terms of weight loss, in terms of eliminating some of those chronic disorders, especially the autoimmune diseases. So let's talk about the effect on blood sugar and insulin regulation. So removal of carbohydrates significantly lowers insulin levels. It actually lowers the levels more than any other diet short of fasting. Fasting is the most efficient way to eliminate, or I'm sorry, lower your insulin levels. And there was a study by Leonard's et al. In 2021 in the Frontiers in Nutrition, which reported improved glycemic control or blood sugar and reduced medication use in type 2 diabetics. So, no question, we can reduce blood sugars naturally. We can eliminate or at least reduce, if not eliminate, the use of medications in type 2 diabetes. And again, in my particular opinion, I think type 2 diabetes is a completely reversible condition, despite what the medical profession will tell you. Um, Also, we're talking about elimination of inflammatory foods. So no seed oils, no processed foods, sugars, or plant anti-nutrients, things like oxalates and other things that we've talked about in a previous video. Many carnivore dieters reported decreased autoimmune symptoms and reduced joint pain. So a great, there's no question carnivore is known as an anti-inflammatory diet. We're getting rid of a lot of inflammatory things. Again, not picking on the vegetarians or the vegans, but there are a lot of inflammatory things in plants, but also in those carbohydrates, in ultra-processed foods and ultra-refined foods. You do get, effects on mental clarity and mood. So there are, and these are purely anecdotal, okay? But so these aren't studies. There's actually a number of studies going on now on the carnivore diet because of the popularity that it's achieved. But there isn't a lot of research, a lot of true clinical studies that, look at the carnivore diet in particular. There are plenty of studies that show the benefits of ketogenic diets, and of course, carnivore is a ketogenic diet, but right now we have to rely on some anecdotal reports for the carnivore diet. So there are reports and survey data that suggest that you get improved cognitive function and mood stabilization through the use of the carnivore diet. So some potential risks and concerns. You know what? Before I jump ahead, sorry, I'm gonna back up 1 minute. I want to touch on this a little bit from my own personal experience. So I'm 4 weeks in. As I mentioned, last week was a challenge, but still continued to do the diet. Um, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, I did come from a low carbohydrate sort of background. So I've been doing low carb diet for probably about 2 years prior to leading up to the carnivore diet. So, I don't have a ton of weight to lose. However, I want to touch on the body composition a little bit. So in the 4 weeks that I've been doing it, and um, it's been a challenge to kind of evaluate this really scientifically because I do see a dietitian. I do body composition monitoring. We had body composition monitoring the first week, then his scale stopped working. Didn't have it the second week, just weighed myself. The first week I lost about 1.5 pounds. The second week I gained about 1 pound, but again, couldn't check what, sort of the story was as far as, I'm sorry, it was the reverse. Gained about 1 pound and then lost about 1.5 pounds in the second week. In the third week, his scale didn't work at all. And then in the fourth week, I, of course, was in the hospital and didn't get any composition monitoring. And I know that his machine is still down and he's ordered a new machine that actually I'll talk about is pretty cool 3D evaluation. A pretty high-tech piece of equipment that will do great body composition monitoring. So as far as where I think I am, just looking at weight alone, I'm about where I started about a month ago. Again, I'm not obese. I don't have that much weight to lose. But here's the important thing, and this is the one thing that I notice, and one thing that I've seen in other people talk about the carnivore diet, the other, social media influencers that have been on carnivore for years, if not a decade, is that I've noticed a pretty dramatic change in body composition in terms of even though my weight has not fluctuated that much, I've thinned out quite a bit, especially abdominal fat, especially visceral fat, which is, the unhealthy fat. So I've since I started this a month ago, I'm actually down a full waist size. So I was a 34 waist. I'm into a 32 waist now. So I lost a full waist size, yet I'm still at the same actual weight, which tells me that I've lost visceral fat and maybe gained a little bit of muscle or uh, you know, you know, offset maybe in the hospital. I might have retained some water. I know the week before I was retaining a little bit of water. So, again, the body composition monitoring is really important to kind of look at where the weight is coming from. But I know in my own personal situation, after about a month, and I'm already down 40 or 50 pounds from where I started prior to the low carb diet. So, I didn't expect much as far as weight loss. I figured maybe I'll lose a few pounds. Over the course of the 3 months, the 90 days that I gave myself on carnivore, I expect that I'll probably drop about 5 pounds, but I'm not looking to lose tons and tons of weight. So don't use that as a benchmark. Don't use that as a marker for yourself. If you're 100 pounds overweight, you absolutely should and will, see weight loss as a result of this diet. No question about it. So again, body composition, I look leaner. I'm a little bit more muscular. I see more muscle tone because of some subcutaneous fat loss, and I've been doing resistance training, lifting weights to make sure that I continue to build muscle, and especially on a carnivore diet, that's real easy. You're getting tons of protein. So I just wanted to tell you from my own perspective, but also translate that into the folks that really need to lose the weight. You will drop weight on this diet, so don't use my results as the proof in the pudding that this diet doesn't work for weight loss. So let's talk about some of the potential risks and concerns. First of all, let's talk nutritional deficiencies. Critics worry about lack of vitamin C, fiber, and magnesium. Now, I'm not even going to go into fiber that much because fiber we talked about in a previous video about how I think it's complete nonsense and not necessary at all whatsoever for the human microbiome. And if you eat plant matter, then you need to have fiber in your diet because you have a micro biome that is designed to break down or the microbiome digest the fiber even though you don't. Let's talk about vitamin C a little bit. So meat does have small amounts of vitamin C, especially organ meats, which I have not yet dabbled in, so I definitely have to get into that a little bit. But the need is certainly lower without glucose oxidation. So it is not as necessary a nutrient, or you don't need the same levels of vitamin C that you do when you're eating an omnivore diet, when you're eating meat and vegetables and, pretty much especially if you're eating refined carbohydrates and ultra processed foods. But your vitamin C requirement goes down when you're not having to oxidize or break down or metabolize glucose or blood sugar. There was a study by Stephenson in the Arctic Explorer, 1928 study with Bellevue Hospital that showed no deficiency after a year of eating only meat and fat. So no vitamin C supplementation, no scurvy, no evidence of vitamin deficiency, and 1 year into eating the carnivore diet. As I mentioned, I don't believe that fiber is really a problem at all. The carnivore diet contains no fiber. Studies on fibers are mixed. There are some studies that showed that reducing fiber helped relieve constipation, but there's no clear evidence that fiber prevents colon cancer when adjusted for other variables. Um, when it comes to cholesterol and heart health, this one makes me completely mental. So, the medical profession loves to focus on LDL. So, here's what happens with a carnivore diet: your LDL level does go up, however, so does HDL. And your lean mass, these lean mass hyper responders, so people who actually are thin eating a carnivore diet may see, pretty big increases in LDL while while other metabolic markers improve. So more studies are definitely needed, but total cholesterol may not be the best predictor of heart risk. And in my opinion, the best predictor of heart risk is your HDL to triglyceride ratio. That is far more predictive of cardiovascular disease than is LDL. And the other thing about LDL that the medical profession never checks, never monitors, and I actually had the testing done, so we'll be able to reevaluate at the end of my 90 days, is to look at the LDL particle size and the number. If the number is going down and the particle size is going up, that's a very, very good thing because smaller LDL particles are very, very inflammatory and contribute to heart disease, whereas larger LDL particles are more buoyant, less predictive of cardiovascular disease, less likely to cause the cholesterol blockages in the arteries that everybody talks about when it comes to cardiovascular disease. And so, in my opinion, and we'll prove this in 90 days or a little bit less when I get follow-up studies, but LDL levels should increase, but the particle size will increase and the number of particles will go down, showing that the LDL is far less predictive of cardiovascular disease. And we'll see that at the end of my time, because at the end of the 90 days, I'm going to retest myself. I did do the testing about 1 week into carnivore, so no big deal that I kind of got a week in. My body was probably adjusting and adapting anyway. But I'll have a before and I'll have an after result when it comes to LDL. And as I mentioned, there are few long-term controlled studies or trials on strict carnivore diets. And most data comes from surveys, case reports, and anecdotal evidence at this point. So we can't sort of hang our hats, so to speak, on the data that's out there right now. Now, some of the things to at least watch out for or be aware of, things like electrolyte imbalances, especially early on, because you're going to get a diuresis effect from cutting out those carbohydrates. If you think about the term carbohydrate, hydrate is built into it because those carbohydrates hold on to water. And when you get rid of the carbohydrates in your body, you're actually getting rid of the water. And along with the water, you're getting rid of those electrolytes as well. So pretty important to do some electrolyte supplementation early on to prevent that keto flu or that carnivore flu that people talk about. And it's simply a matter of adding some salt to your diet. You can do full electrolytes if you want to, but not really 100% necessary. You should watch out for digestive changes, diarrhea, or constipation. Again, early on symptoms. I personally have not had any problems with that. I find that I go less often, so I'm sort of less regular. But by the same token, as I mentioned in previous videos, that you're utilizing that food. So you're getting rid of less waste, which means you shouldn't have to void as often. You shouldn't have to, not void, you shouldn't have to have a bowel movement as often. There are some fat adaptation symptoms. You can experience a little fatigue, brain fog in the early weeks, but that should definitely clear up and then you should gain mental clarity. I haven't really seen a lot of that. I haven't seen a ton of extra mental clarity either, but I really wasn't having any mental symptoms to start with. And then some possible social and food environmental challenges. Like I mentioned with the hospital, there's no question socially, people aren't going to understand what you're doing. They're not going to, it's not going to make sense to them. That's okay. Just know why you're doing it and know that you can fight through those things. You just have to have some willpower. You have to, explain yourself to some degree. And then at some point, if people aren't on board, then so be it. That's their thing. You do your thing. So there were some studies I'd like to just summarize or mention here. Scratch that, Leo. Get rid of the studies section. So even though I'm only 4 weeks in, are the changes that I've been talking about worth kind of experiencing for yourself? And have you tried carnivore? Are you thinking about it? Drop your questions and comments below. I'd love to continue the conversation and, let you know a little bit more of my experience if you have specific questions or what you've experienced when you did carnivore, or are you still doing carnivore? Did you stop doing carnivore? What did you experience? What good, what bad things did you experience? Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. And don't forget to follow for more science-backed episodes of the Obesity Project. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.